Welcome to Can We Have a Dialogue about Dialogs? Hey, I'm Eric, and I just got a question the other day saying, Eric, how do you do those small windows that come up and tell when something is doing something? Well, in BC, of course. And I said, well, that's a dialogue, and it's actually one of the oldest construct that we have, because this one goes all the way back to the first version of Navision, but it still exists today, and it's sort of the same. Now it's perhaps a little less functional than it used to be, but let's take a look at how it works. So here is a fresh extension, and a dialog is a variable type, data type, and I always call it a window for some reason. You saw that because sometimes I have my Danish keyboard on and then I do this, get Danish characters, and then I go back to the American keyboard to get non-Danish characters. Anyway, it's not a record, it's a dialogue. And well, the first thing we can do with a dialog is that we can open it, and we can add in a string if we want to. So we can do stay calm and AL on. That's a good message. So let's run this, see what happens. So I hit F5 to deploy, and I'm deploying to my local Docker thingy here, and I need to log in because security, and nothing happened. Interesting. Let's take a look at what we have here. So on open page, custom list, they comment AL on. Let's actually just do one thing. I want to see what happens if we do this. Nothing happens. So let's try one more thing, because on open page is kind of a weird place. So let's move this down to become a global variable, so it doesn't go out of scope the instant it's in scope. So you see the difference here, that because this variable went out of scope, the dialog never, well, it showed briefly, but it probably actually did not show because it was already gone. But now it's a global variable. So we open it on the trigger. My hair is weird, I just walked the dog. And it says working on it, stay calm and AL on. And we cannot do anything. We can hit cancel. If you cancel, all currently running processing tasks will be discarded. I don't think I have any of those because we didn't really do anything. We just threw up a message. So I'll cancel, and then we're in the page as usual. So let's talk about that. So the fact is that we open this one, and then what it will do is that it will block the UI. Or actually, yeah, it will block the UI, but give you the cancel function. But processing will continue. So let's, instead of doing on open page, because on open page is kind of annoying, let's go and add an action. And we'll do add first in processing because that's how we fly. And let's call this test, caption equal test, and application area all, and trigger on action. Okay, so we know we need I'll call it window again because that's how I roll. And then we need something to waste time. So let's take the GL entries, and we probably need to spend some more time. So if we create if gl.findSet, then repeat until gl.next equals 0. So we're looping all of them. Let's actually grab something more. Sum could be a decimal. And let's just do sum is equal gl amount times random 3, just so we get something, right? So now we have a loop that will spend a bit of time. I don't think this is really spending enough time to do anything. So let's do for I equal 1 to 50 do begin. This should be enough. Let's save this. So we're just doing this 50 times. So let's see what happens. So I run the page, F5. We are deploying. Success. And let me close the old tabs and go to action. And interestingly enough, you see that we added, totally sidetracking here for just a second. So we add first processing. That's clearly not first, that's second. So something else, another extension also did a add first, and they won. At some point I want to do a video on that. If you find that this area interesting, then let me know in the comments below, because there are some things you can do. So it's interesting how these things interact. Anyway, here it is. I hit test and we get an hourglass. And at some point, maybe we should actually improve our code. And now we get the arrow, so it's done. So let's actually improve our code so we can see that when we're done. So let's do a message here saying total is %1.sum. And let's up this to 100. So let's try it again. I compile, deploy. And now you're asking, but you're not adding any dialogs. No, I know that. I want to prove a point here in just a second. So I run this again. So we get the hourglass. So that's the only indication the user is giving that something is happening. So what will happen when we'll get the message when we're done, but at some point the BC web client will say, this is taking, oh, we actually got the total before that happened. So sometimes you will get the working on it. Suddenly a dialog will pop up saying that apparently a certain amount of time has passed, which is enough that BC says, oh, we better let the user know that something is happening. But we can do better, because we can do that ourselves. So let's open the window and stay calm. AL is working. ... Maybe a semicolon for the purist in us. And so it's interesting, because when will a message pop up? A message will pop up when we're done with something. So there's actually, we can try this. So if I do window.close here, let's just, instead of 100, let's just do 10. So it's pretty fast. Let's run this and see. So now we're closing the window before we're opening the message. See how that goes. I hit action, test. Stay calm, AL is working. Our dialog is gone and the message is here. So that was kind of what we would expect. But what if we did it the other way around? So we put up the message and then we close the window. So we come, the exact same thing happened here. So this is actually not due to dialog, this is due to message. That message will not show up until we are at a point where the user has the ability to interact with the system. So if I put up a message inside the loop, or if I put up the, I can do this. Now total will of course be wrong, but if we let's do this. Come on, BC. Come on. Relay, action, test. Working on it, AL is working, total is 0. So we're still just getting the message when we're done, even though the message was the first thing that we popped up. So this one will not show until we are at a point where the user can interact with the system. The window, on the other hand, let's put it back down in the proper place there. So the window, on the other hand, will pop up and will be, let's go back to 50, will be visible at those time in the processing. The window will take some time. So just to be clear, that this piece of code is running on the service tier, is running in the server. When you're opening the window, you're actually communicating with the client. So there is not a major impact on processing power, but there certainly is an impact that we need to open this window on the client. We need to get a communication from the server to the client. But these are, so now we're just opening a window and we're closing it again. So that's pretty light. What we can do is that we can actually update this form. But in order to update it, we need to add a field in here, and a field is added through a syntax that looks like this. This is field 1, this is field 2, and let's just go with field 1 and field 2 for now, see what happens. So what I could do is that, let me put a begin and end on my loop here. So I could say that, okay, every time of my 50 entries here, I want to update field 1 with the value of I. So now I'll just stop the debugger and run it again. So action test. And now you can see that it's counting up to 50, or well, let's hope it's 50. It is 50, and then we get the result. So now we are communicating with the UI one time for each of these loops. We could go extreme and say, okay, let's take field number 2 and update that with the sum so far. So now we're updating. I can't remember how many. I think we have 3,000 GLledger entries in Kronos, something like that. So now we're updating the field a lot. So if we run this, you see it pretty much the same thing. We get a lot of numbers here, so it's but again, this is all running within my machine, so there's no network lag, there's no stuff like that. This is not how you want to do it. This will have an impact on your system, and again, users there's no value in these numbers just flickering. Maybe there is a value in having the the sum so far. But then you will probably make sure that it's, you know, in the outer loop. So now we're updating, saying this is the loop number, then we're doing the stuff, and then we're updating the sum so far. So we only have 50 updates of the dialog and not thousands of updates. And it's still, the user can still see that stuff is happening. You see, whenever I'm adding a field, it forces a line break, which is kind of weird. And you can also add a line break yourself by adding a backslash. A backslash as a line break. So there are, I said before that we have had dialogs for ever, you know, for 21 years, for 31 years. Wow. But they are actually less capable now. So now we got the line break. So they're less capable now than they used to be. So we had two features. One was that if we used @, then this field will get treated as a progress bar. That's pretty cool. The other was that we could actually do window.input, and then we can say 2 and put this into a string, and that will, where you could open dialog and you could prompt the user for a value. So very simple dialog that just prompt the user for a value, and then you had to press escape for it to for the system to accept it, which was very, very weird, but you could. Anyway, those features are no longer here. So this is how I usually use the dialog. Of course, to make this proper, you would want, so here's a pretty cool little feature in the AL Code Actions extension. If you haven't installed David's awesome add-in AL Code Action, you should. So now I can take this and I say extract to label. So I'll call it dialog text label, and I'll extract this one to be a result message. And now those are labels, so they can be included in translation and stuff like that. That was kind of a sidetrack. Anyway, that's how I use dialogs. And it's a great way to keep the user informed about stuff that is happening, and tell the user why they have to wait on the system. BC is there's a lag in, you know, we saw the hourglass come up, but there's a lag. So sometimes users can get confused. Is it working? And especially when you're in a web browser where you're not necessarily loading a new page, so the progress working indicators of the web browser itself is not there. So it can be pretty hard for a user to figure out if did they click on something, or is something happening or is something not happening. Adding dialogs will help that. Don't make them super busy, because that is not helping anyone. That just looked like a confused programmer trying to debug through a dialog, and you don't want to do that. But make them update in an appropriate manner that helps the user understand that you're actually working. It's working. So one thing that as I said, let me close off all these tabs. One thing that let me see if I can find Henrik. So I said that the progress bar was lost. So here is Henrik Helgersen GitHub page. He's looking all wise in his Zen moment here. That's pretty cool. One of his repository is called the BCAL Toolbox, and it's a nice little collection of different stuff that Henrik is using all over the place, and he's just kind of collecting it into this project. One of the things that he has is a progress bar, and I'm not going to run his code now. I just want to point you to it, and then you can grab it yourself, and remember to send Henrik a nice message. It's pretty clever, because how do you do a progress bar? Well, in this case, Henrik is actually building a progress bar just with some fancy Unicode characters. So you get in one of the fields is just a string, and then he's creating a fancy string that is the progress bar, and with some functions around it, so you can just say, okay, I want the progress bar to be at 50% now and 60% and so on, and then you get a progress bar that looks like that. So that is pretty cool. So try that out. And I think that's it for dialogs. Let me know in the comments below if you're doing some fancy stuff with dialogs. I would love to see them. Other than that, have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon again in the next video.